Good afternoon, boys. How are you?
Long time no see there, Mother.
It has been. I was trying to figure out earlier before this exciting podcast when our last podcast was actually held. I don't know if it was before Shape America in April or after with Mark Collard from Plamio. We were down under. He was eating Aussie pizza.
And he was supposed to give me the lotto numbers because they're a day ahead of us, and he never shot them to me, so I didn't win.
Yeah. But so eating pizza, I just kind of chopped on a little slice of pizza. A little cheese got back there.
There you go.
But it's good to eat pizza and discuss PE with you guys again. I don't know if some of the audience who is listening to this knows a little bit of the updates of our family structure. I think the audience knows that the three of us are
Mom's abandoned her two children.
I had to. I let the boys go to let them grow. I've joined school health as a health and PE curriculum specialist and retired on June 30th in North Carolina Public Schools, but still being an ambassador for the PE and health profession by continuing to do work with school health. Basically, I'm doing the same work I'm doing with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools, just helping school districts nationwide. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to continue to do so. And Andrew, Keith, and I obviously live in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're going to continue to work together and to put out these podcasts. Summer's been pretty hectic though, right? With travel and, just family even coming into town.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on.
So even though that sometimes we like to prepare in advance, like to try to make summer not as hectic, to prepare for back to school to start, no matter what, it always is a busy time. So.
And this is always a fun thing to do, but I'm wondering, Kim.
What?
With your new job and, you're plugging school health, will they be a sponsor? Then they can start buying us the pizza for our podcasts.
Let me help the company grow before I approach that.
This will help them grow.
You have to eat Chicago style because you're based out of Chicago. So
you're right, but you know what? That was a great idea to have a sponsorship with pizza, discuss PE, have a little. I don't know. Let's think about that one. We're always out of the box thinker. So, one of my pet peeves is, well, that will never happen. Who knows?
Hey, it is what it is.
Oh, that's another pet peeve. I haven't heard that in a while, Andrew. It is what it is, and that will never happen.
Well, Kim, will you lift this up to your higher ups?
Oh, that's another one. Lift that up.
But you both know that it would be hard to get a pizza sponsor here in Charlotte that wasn't Sal's, which is our favorite place. We can plug them without even having a sponsorship because they have just.
As long as we do it with fidelity, we're good.
We're going to pivot. Throwing those buzzwords out there.
My water almost just came spraying all over the screen.
Let's be vulnerable today, too. Let's make sure.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, people are going to replay this to pick up all the little pet peeve buzzwords. But anyways, I'm excited to bring this guest, shooting guest, put a little hint to who we have as a guest on the podcast today. I met this teacher at James Madison University over the summer. Also been following him on Twitter through our professional learning network, just sharing ideas. And in fact, I think what happened was he put it out there on Twitter saying, hey, he answered a question that someone posed saying, what is something you want to accomplish this year? And he goes, to be on the Pizza and PE podcast. So I instantly inboxed him and said, of course. So we set it up. He's famous for his TrickShots. I can't wait to ask him about those and his career in physical education. So before we get him on to the show, Keith, do you have a pizza fun fact for us?
Of course. So this was an interesting one because there could be a couple of, depending on where you go for your information, different things about this particular fact. But Atavia is the largest pizza. It's 122 feet, 8 inches in diameter, and it's made in Rome, Italy. So there always is a debate of where is the largest or who made the largest pizza, because I know there was one in Texas and there's one somewhere else. But what makes this one even more interesting, at least to me, is that 122-foot, 8-inch pizza, 100% gluten-free, because they wanted to promote healthiness with this particular pizza. I mean, that's a big gluten-free pizza right there.
Wait, can you kind of put it into terms that I can understand?
So from home plate to second base in baseball, that's
how give me a reference of how long that pizza is.
Well, it's
not the size of a football field, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's 33 yards. 30, almost 40 yards. Or it's 40 yards. Yeah.
Okay. So half the distance of a straightaway in a track.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Now I get it.
That's a big pie.
That's a big pie.
And if my math is wrong on that, those who are listening, if you try to send us math stuff, I'm not going to. I'm not in the math world.
No. But I'm wondering how they cook it.
Carefully.
Well, it's Italy, so maybe blowtorch.
Or do they actually put like fire pit?
I don't know. On the top, do they have like a big?
That's the next fact. You got to find out how they cooked it.
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah. I think if you put a bunch of PE teachers together and pose that type of challenge, I think we could come up and actually beat that record. I do. We love a challenge. PE teachers love to be like, okay, that can't happen. Oh, yeah, we can. We are such DIY people.
Isn't that kind of the premise of today about challenging tricks?
Andrew, spot on, buddy. So who do we have?
Look at that. Look at that.
So, Andrew, who do we have, man?
Who do we have?
So we are excited to have Coach Noel, an elementary PE teacher from Colvin Elementary School in Fairfax County Public Schools, which serves over 180,000 students. That's a lot. That's bigger than us. Noel is known for his famous trick shots. So I know we're going to dive into that today, and we're definitely going to talk about it on this podcast.
You guys, Fairfax County Schools is near Washington, D.C. It's huge.
That is big.
That's where my favorite team plays, in Washington, D.C. for football, and that's coming up. They're going to win Super Bowl. You heard it here first.
Okay.
Wow. You're really putting that out there?
Yep.
So for our audience,
you don't even know their name. Half the time, you don't even remember that they're called the Commanders.
You will know that at the end of the season, you will know our name when we win it all.
Okay.
Wait, listen. This is Andrew. Okay, I got to talk about this before we bring Patrick on. You guys, audience, Keith does this every year. He's all gung-ho about his football team, the Washington Commanders, whatever team it's called.
I like the Commanders.
I know. I just, people are stopped playing this podcast if you're a Washington fan. But anyways, he gets so excited every year. And then he's all gung-ho. And then about game 4 or 5.
Week three.
Week 3, if they don't have a doing great, I'm done with this team. I'm throwing my jersey in a bag, and I'm going to leave it in there until the following year.
He has trouble regulating his emotions.
He does.
With the Commanders, for sure.
I can't even say it. All right, let's bring him on. Patrick. Hey.
Oh, and then we got sorry.
What?
So, Andrew, when you were saying like by week 3, is that preseason or is that regular season that he gives up?
Oh,
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. He gives him at least a week or two, and then by then, then he's out.
The last thing a Cowboy fan should ever say is preseason, because you guys go 3-0 and you go, we them boys, and then you start losing, and then it's like, well, it's Dak. Then the excuses start rolling in, and then they fade away.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know, I'm used to it.
Wow.
But little fun fact for you, Kramer. Last year, we had Ryan Fitzpatrick's girls at our school. So I had the 3 middle girls that they had. Sweetest kids. They were great.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, I would have liked to have seen him play. I mean, like, not get hurt and see what he could have done. And it's a shame because he's one of those quarterbacks that he's not going to be known for being amazing, but he can do enough stuff to, like, people like him. You
Yeah.
can't hate on Ryan Fitzpatrick.
No, not at all.
Right. So Ryan, I mean, not Ryan. Oh my gosh. You had Ryan Fitzpatrick in my mind.
There's the first one.
There's my first little oof.
Yep.
For those who are listening on this podcast, what you need to do is go to all our other episodes and see how many times that Kim actually inserts foot into mouth.
There's your challenge.
There's your challenge. I will mispronounce words. I will call people the wrong name. So there's your challenge. Just go back to all 21 episodes, including this one, to see how many mishaps that Kim has. All right, Patrick, Coach Noel.
Yeah.
You put out there, I think yesterday when I was promoting this podcast on the Twitterverse, you said, hey, I think you're going to like my pizza choice. So what type of pizza are you eating?
So I am eating the gourmet slices from your favorite Wegmans. So I knew once I got the invite, I was like, after our conversation at JMU, you talked about how much you liked Wegmans. And I was like, if I get on that podcast, I've got to get pizza from Wegmans. So their choices were a little slim today. So I went with a slice of pepperoni and a slice of the white cheese and garlic.
Nice.
Oh, you got the white pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Is white pizza really just known up north? You guys?
They'll make it down here, but I mean, it's more common up north for sure.
Yeah.
Gosh, I used to love having the combination. For an audience who does not know about the world's best grocery store, it's called Wegmans. It's gigantic.
I've been to it once. It's amazing.
It is. You could go in there and you could meals to go. They have food. It's almost like a huge restaurant in it. Any spice, any type of my meal preparation. It's called go to the grocery store, get something that's a 30-minute meal. I don't want to slice and dice. I want my sauces. I want everything. Wegmans is my type of grocery store. We don't have, we have one or two in North Carolina. One's in Raleigh, which is about 2.5 hours away. But when I was in Virginia, I was searching where we were, Patrick, James Madison University, the closest Wegmans, because I would have drove and went out, but there wasn't any near James Madison.
Yeah, they're more along like the eastern part of the state, like down along 95.
Yeah.
They go down as far as like Richmond. I don't know that they're in the Virginia Beach area yet, but I know there's a bunch in Richmond, and there's 6 or 7 now up here in Northern Virginia.
Ooh.
So you have the best of both worlds there. And, I've been to a Wegmans once. I was amazed. I was like, this is an amazing place. I'm surprised Charlotte doesn't have it with all the transplants from up north. But like Andrew and I, we were just down in Florida, and the other place that you have up there that we don't have here is Wawa. Amazing.
Yeah.
If you don't like Wawa, I don't know if we can trust you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a few of them around here.
Yeah. I think I'm going to be going to Loudoun County Schools on the 22nd, and then I'm going to Virginia Beach Public County Schools on the 30th. So I think I can find a location that's
There's
near.
one in Leesburg.
Okay, I'm writing that down. I'm going to stock up and bring home like all the spices and type of sauces, things that doesn't need to be refrigerated from Wegmans. And of course, pick up some of their cookies, their bakeries.
I got my sparkling water from there too.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It's amazing. Yeah, the Wegmans brand is legit.
It is.
The Wegman reps listening right now, we would love your sponsorship.
Absolutely.
So,
All right, well, let's get to it.
All right.
Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you got started in physical education, how many years, have you always been an elementary teacher? I think that you have kids of your own, all that good stuff. Just tell the audience about who you are.
So I'm originally from Saratoga Springs, which is in the eastern part of New York, just north of Albany. I knew I wanted to be a PE teacher. I specifically remember in 7th grade writing an essay about it. At that time, it was obviously I was going to be a PE teacher after my MBA career was done. But I just skipped over that part a little bit. So I went to St. Bonaventure University, which is just south of Buffalo. Graduated in 2005, and I graduated in December. So I was back home. I was subbing back home in New York on a whole bunch of teacher websites, and got an email one day that Fairfax County Public Schools would be hiring over 1,500 teachers. I was like, it's got to be at least one PE job there. So I applied there. I got a call on a Friday. And they were like, can you come in on Wednesday? I was like, no, I'm in New York.
Right.
It just happened to be, I was lifeguarding at the time, and my schedule the following week, I had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. So I was like, I can come down next Wednesday. So I drove down Tuesday night, stayed at a hotel, got up, interviewed at 9 o'clock in the morning, and started driving right back up to Long Island, where the girl I was dating at the time was. And we were at a minor league baseball game. My dad calls me and plays answering machine, message. And it was the principal offering me the position. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm moving to Virginia.
That's amazing.
I started teaching 2006 was my first year. So I'm going on year 17 now. This will be, so I did 7 years at my first school and loved it. Had a great co-teacher that, helped bring me along. And then my position was being de-staffed because our numbers were dropping a little bit. So it was going to be down to like a 4-day-a-week position there. And I had been de-staffed a couple of other times throughout those 7 years. So I was part-time at that school and another school here and there. And then a position opened up over the summer that was still pretty close. So I went, and that was a full-time position. So I went there. During that time, I was also coaching basketball. I started off coaching the elite levels as a freshman assistant coach, and then worked my way up. I did a freshman head coach job. I was a varsity assistant. I was a JV head coach. And then while I was at that second school, I became the varsity girls head coach. That coach left like a month before the season, and our DSA knew that I was looking for a varsity job. And so she was like, here, do you just want to do it for the year and see where that goes? And we went to the district championship in that first year. Nobody really expected us to. So I was like, I think I can do this. But then 2 years later at that elementary school, I got de-staffed again. And at that point, I was going into year number 10. I was like, I don't want to do part-time anymore, going into year 10. I had done some curriculum stuff. I was like, I know that, what I can bring. And so I kind of jokingly texted my DSA and said, I just got de-staffed again. Do you have anything there at the high school? And so she ended up having a position for me. So I like to say I pretended to teach high school PE for 3 years, because after that second year, I was ready to quit. I was ready to quit teaching altogether. I just couldn't connect with the kids as well as I did the elementary kids. I was ready to move down to Florida where my parents are and take a $30,000 pay cut to,
Wow.
teach down there. But, something didn't really find the right fit. So, I stayed, and just by chance and luck and knowing some right people, after my third year, I was able to get back into an elementary school. And that was right across the street from the high school that I was coaching at. At that point, I stepped down from coaching just to spend more time with family. And those 2 years were probably there's a fly here. Probably the two best years as far as like refinding my passion for teaching. I worked with two amazing teachers, and just learned so much more. And like I said, reignited that flame of teaching. And then I spent 2 years there, and that second year was when COVID happened and everything shut down. So we were back home. My wife is about 35, 36 weeks pregnant. And my best friend from St. Bonaventure, who's been teaching down here as well, calls me up and says, "Hey, our other teacher went to go to Oakton High School. Do you want to come teach together?" And it's like, at that point, sorry,
That's amazing.
a little fruit fly. It's like at that point, you're not going to say no to teaching with your best friend every day. So,
Wow.
I mean, my wife wasn't too thrilled to hear that news because we already had daycare lined up in the neighborhood for that school. So she was like, "If you can find us a new daycare, because I'm not going to look, but if you can find us a new daycare," because that was really the only piece of it that affected her. All the other things, it's a farther drive for me. So she was like, "You've got to figure out if you want to sit in traffic that long and, change schools." But so we found a great daycare that our daughter loves. She turned 2 the end of May. She's upstairs, hopefully taking a nap right now. But my wife's parents are here, so they can take care of her when she gets up.
So, Coach Noel,
Yeah.
your wife, that was in the midst of right when COVID happened at 36 weeks. That must have been a little anxiety in your household, just the unknown.
Little bit, yeah.
And is that your first child?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I'm glad everything worked out.
But, it ended up really being a blessing because so she was born May 28th and we finished school like a week and a half, 2 weeks later. And so, I mean, at that point, everything was virtual and we were still just trying to figure out what virtual learning was. So it really wasn't, I didn't have to take any time off. And my wife had started her maternity leave. And then I was home. I wasn't working all summer. So we really had those first like 3.5 months where we could just try and figure out how to keep this baby alive.
Yeah.
We didn't have any outside pressure of like having to go see people and meet people or host people. And it was just, we could just spend that time with us. And I think that was really helpful for us as, new parents.
Sure.
I actually missed some of that time where it's like, okay, we were forced to slow down because things weren't opened, or, we were forced not to travel. And we were like, okay, I really like being at home and just, finding that, I don't know, that time that I don't know if we'll ever get back again.
Yeah.
So Coach Noel, have you taught kindergarten all the way through 12th grade then? All the different grade levels?
Technically, yes. Because our elementary schools go K through 6.
Okay.
So actually, I haven't taught 7th and 8th. I haven't done any middle school.
Okay.
But when I was at the high school, I had most of my. But then I also had each year, I think I had like one section of personal fitness. And so that was an elective that was available for 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
So I've seen pretty much all of it.
Yeah. And you've been, I've tried to do the math in my head, 14 years, 15 years?
So this will be my 14th year doing elementary, and then I did 3 years doing high school.
Oh, okay. So you're going into your 17th year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I have a follow-up to some of that.
Sure.
Coming from the Northeast, did you want to come down south? I mean, because here, and the reason I ask that is because oftentimes, I guess people can kind of understand this. Teachers up north, it's hard to get that job up in the north because they pay much better than they do down here. So the competition is way more fierce to get a job. And was it you wanted to come this way, or hey, this is where the openings were and you jumped at that opportunity?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, I remember being in high school and telling my parents I wanted to go to college down in Florida. So I just think there's always been something that kind of was drawing me down with further south, probably the weather and not having to deal with those New York winters. And then, I had been doing a little bit of research on Virginia. I remember when I was student teaching, I had some cousins that lived down in the Virginia Beach area. So, I was looking there, but then, like I said, it was just a matter of Fairfax County was the only one who called me to set up an interview, and the rest was kind of history. And I remember when I was student teaching outside of St. Bonaventure, it's a small town called Wellsville, and my cooperating teacher, we were just talking. My brother had just gotten hired for his first job, and I was talking to her about like what he was making. He's not a teacher, but he was making like $45,000, like to start off with. And she goes, oh honey, she goes, I can't tell you how long you're going to have to teach before you're making that kind of money. And, fortunately, like down here where we are, like they pay very well, all things considered. It's expensive to live here, but, the salary is much more than I think I'd ever thought I would be making as a teacher.
Sure. So that kind of leads me to the next question I have. I will take it back to, some of the stuff that I know that you are involved in, and you're known for trick shots and trick shot videos, and you have 150 plus videos, and many are on your TikTok channel, which is at Mr. Noel's Trick Shots. Can you explain how you got started doing this, and what was your I guess what was the reason you got into, like, how does somebody wake up one morning and go, hey, you know what, I think I'm going to do a trick shot today, and then I'm going to film it, and then I'm going to just start posting it, and let's see what kind of challenges we can get from this.
Yeah. So, I mean, probably the root of it is just, basketball was always my life growing up, so I've been playing for, it's over 30 years now from when I remember starting playing basketball. And it's like, for so long, an empty gym was my safe haven. It was my sanctuary. There's nothing better to me than being in an empty gym and just hearing that ball bounce. But at some point, like, you get bored in an empty gym. So, it just figuring out different ways to get the ball in the hoop. I've got a brother who's just about 2 years older than me, and he is super competitive. I love to compete, and I think that's a really big difference. So like winning to me wasn't always mostly the most important thing, because when I won, you would beat me up. So I was like, well, I just want to have fun, and I like to compete, but I'm not going to do whatever it takes to win, because I don't like what happens after the fact.
Right.
And so just, playing horse with him in our bedroom, really, we'd have the over the door hoop, and we would just come up with these crazy things then. So I think that's probably where the root of it came. But as far as the trick shot videos, it all started over the pandemic, like when everything shut down. Part of our responsibility was we set up like a Google Sites page just for all three of our PE teacher stuff. And I was like, what? I had a little, the basketball garbage can in a small hoop. So I started just doing silly stuff with that, and I would post it on that page for the kids to look at, just to really make them smile or whatever. And then that following school year, which was the first year that I started at Colvin Run, we started fully virtual. And so there were times where I was able to go into the building. And so I was like, what, I want to do like trick shot of the week. Really, I was only seeing the kids once a week. So I knew, I was like, I didn't have to make a whole lot at that time. And then it just started snowballing. We were having work done down here in our basement, and I couldn't teach from here. So I was going into the building to do my virtual lessons. And at that point I was like, I can't just sit here in my office all day long when I, only seeing the kids once a week. That's so much more downtime.
Right.
So I was like, I'd go in, and there were days I'd make like 3 or 4 shots in a day. And so I initially started just posting them on my Instagram stories for friends to see.
Sure.
And then I would post them at the end of my lesson. And as the weeks went on, it was like 5 minutes left in class. They saw that slide that came up that said trick shot time, and I would post 2 side by side, and I would have the kids vote on it. And it was just awesome, because being a new teacher and not being able to, or new to that school, I didn't know any of the kids. So it just gave me a way to kind of have some connections with them. I'd have parents, like kids would go and grab their parents when they saw that slide come up, and their parents and siblings would be over their shoulders looking at all the different trick shots. And then a friend of mine who was actually one of my student managers when I was coaching sent me a message. She was like, Coach Noel, you have to make a TikTok. Like, people go famous for the stupidest stuff on there. Like, I was like, okay. So I started posting them there, and I made it pretty much through that entire first year without the kids knowing that I had a TikTok.
Right.
But then there was one that, like, just to align the music with it, like, I had to download the actual TikTok of it. So as soon as that one came up on the screen, they're like, oh, you have a TikTok? What's your TikTok? What's your TikTok?
You're famous. You're influencer.
Yeah. But then, this past year, it was mostly like our 5th and 6th graders. Every so often they'd come in, they'd be coming into the gym, and they'd be like, I saw your TikTok. That was a good one. So it's just kind of.
So, Coach Noel, it would take me days, and it would be pure luck if I were to make a trick shot. No, I'm serious. Okay.
No,
I played soccer. I am terrible with anything with, like, throwing and catching. The boys will tell you.
That's true.
Very true. Walk me through, like, where do you set your camera? Do you take several shots? How long does it take? Walk me through that process of you actually making one of those trick shots.
So typically I'm just like sitting in the gym or whatever unit we're working on. Like, I see what equipment we have out, and I'm like, when Brad is teaching, I'm like, how can I use this to make a trick shot? So I'll get an idea, and I typically just set my phone up and I prop it up on something. I had a tripod, but the stand kept falling or sliding down. So I just prop it up, and I have it forward facing so I can see what's going on. And I just hit record and start figuring it out. And I tell people, like, I never miss. I just figure out a way not to make it. And like, in the time that I spend it, like, I realize how much value I can carry over from me doing trick shots to teach to the kids. How to deal with failure, perseverance, like how to, all right, I've got a goal of getting this ball in the hoop over 3 rafters. Like, okay, well, it's not working. How can I adjust it? Do I need to move forward? Do I need to move backward? And so, just so many lessons that I figured out that I can bring into that, where it's not just, oh, hey, look at these videos. It's like, all right, hey, let's try it out. Let's see what we can do.
Oh, that's interesting. Like the problem solving, like dissecting it, why it didn't work, and what can we do to make it better? The step by step.
I mean, there's some shots in there that I sit there and go, that's got to be like trick photography. There's got to be, and listen, I understand if magicians don't give up all their, can't give out their secrets. So I mean, that's okay. If there's some magic stuff going on behind the scenes, you could just blink and we'll know not to go any further with this question.
You guys,
I mean, really though, there are some shots in there. I go, really? I mean, and that's great. I mean, it's awesome.
My storage of my phone would be used up before I even made a trick shot. I would have to delete so many of my missed shots that it wouldn't even happen.
So I typically I'll hit record and I'll do as many shots as I can. And then once I make it, I just trim down that part to how I want it.
Oh, that's smart.
And I'll typically, like, people always ask me, how many attempts does it take? And I never keep track. I know there's some people who make trick shot videos who do. I don't have that kind of patience to go back and count or, do a count or whatever. So I'll always tell them, like, about how long it takes me, because I typically record in about 10-minute increments. Because anything longer than that, it's hard to really, like, trim down with my fingers to get it how I want it. But
that's a good point. I never thought about that. I would just been play, record, stop, delete. So just keep it going and then trim it down. Much better. Yeah.
So Coach, one thing too, with creating all these different trick shots, using that creativity to come up with new and different ways, adding implements, whatever it is to master these shots. I think it also, on top of teaching those life skills that you were talking about, it also brings creativity to students, where I think they need more of that. because they're not playing as much. We know that as we did when we were kids, and we were picking up games using pine cones and tinfoil balls, playing handball in the yard with our sandwich. Like there's so many different ways that kids can be creative, coming up with ways to do this themselves. So do they ever have opportunities to share their trick shots with you of things that they're creating?
Absolutely. Like, so that first year I had a few different students just email me that they were out in the backyard making their own trick shots, doing whatever, sport that they were wanting to do. And I loved it. And I told them, I said, whatever you send, like I would add those to my trick shot time slide at the end of the class to highlight and showcase those. But then, throughout last year, like any unit that I could, we would take a little chunk of time. Like once we had the skills covered and said, okay, now this is our trick shot portion. So if we're tossing into a bucket, okay, you can't be looking at the bucket. They turn around. And what I love about that is it sets like the bar almost so high that failure becomes the expectation. So they don't get upset when they're not missing it. They're learning how to get it. But then on the flip side, when they do make it, that excitement goes through the roof because they're not expected to make it.
Sure.
And it just builds so much more like buy-in and excitement for it. Like I'll have kids, standing, just doing a tossing and catching, and the kid is holding the bucket. Okay, well, this round you can't look at your partner with the bucket, or this round the person with the bucket has to be turning around, and you have to figure out how to move it, or you have to have the bucket on your head.
I love how you said they don't expect to get it, so that they learn that failure is part of that learning process. Because it's almost like I hear so many teachers and even parents state that their child doesn't know how to overcome failure. They don't have the resilience to overcome. They can't regulate their emotions. They get all upset because they want instant gratification. But by teaching them, like, look, out of the 100 shots you might make one.
Yeah.
And then to see, like, because I saw some of the student trick shots on your your TikTok channel. And you're right, the kids' faces, it's such a shock when they make it and they can't, like their excitement, it just overwhelms them. Like they let themselves completely go in the moment that it's a true, like celebration for them. I love the look of their faces when they make it.
Yeah.
And I think, don't you do something too where kids, they auction off to try to do trick shots with you, or it's a special special thing that you do within the school climate where kids, it's like used as a reward too?
Yeah. So our school, most of the kids in our school live in Great Falls, Virginia.
Okay.
And so like their Chamber of Commerce puts on a golf tournament each year called Celebrate Great Falls. And the proceeds of the golf tournament go towards the 3 different elementary schools that we have in Great Falls. And as part of that, they do an online auction. And so our principal reaches out and says, excuse me, do you want to offer anything up? Some teachers do like a popcorn movie night. Some teachers will do, X, Y, and Z. So I was like, sure, I'll absolutely offer up, a one-on-one trick shot class. And so each of them individually have gone for like over $150. There've been multiple bids on it. And I just bring them in one afternoon and record all of their shots. It's the number one rule is make sure the camera's rolling. And I just take them through it and show them, one, they're not as hard as you may think they are. Once you understand like how to place yourself, and at the end of the day it's physics, but that's obviously not something that we go over with the elementary school kids, but and then just try them out and see what they can do. And this year the first one that I did was one of the 3rd grade girls, and I ended up posting that on my Twitter account because I hadn't typically posted a lot of my videos on Twitter. I've kept that mostly for like teaching stuff and whatnot. But since this was having kids in there, I did it, and I ended up tagging Fairfax County Public Schools page, and they retweeted it out to their, thousands and thousands of followers. And then I get a message from a reporter from ABC7, and he was like, "Hey, I think this is awesome. Like, I'd love to do a story on it." And so he sends me his cell phone number, and this is in the middle of class, by the way, but my co-teacher's teaching.
Wow.
And so I go, "Yeah, that'd be great. Like, here's my number." And literally within a minute, he's calling me. He goes, "Hey, I want to pitch this today. Like, I'll let you know by like 4:00." And by, I think, 5:30, 5:45, like, they were at the school. Sophie came back and they did a news story on it too. So, like, I mean, it's crazy how just that of like giving back to the kids, like, kind of blew up a little bit.
Yeah, and bring also like that school spirit that the news, reporter was there. And the fact that you just mentioned how you just posting on Twitter, how that leveraged even positive, reporting for your school, how quickly the reporter picked it up. Like, and I know we're going to talk about, leveraging Twitter for professional learning and such, but you and I met, also through Twitter, First Online Professional Learning Network. But I saw you this summer at James Madison University, JMU, for the Health and Physical Activity Institute. And that institute, I forget how many years, 20 plus years it's been in existence, at least. Because when I started my teaching career in 1994, I attended, which used to be called the Blue Ridge Health Institute. Virginia, by the way, to our listeners, does an amazing job of just in health and physical education and coaching up and grooming their teachers. I'm so impressed by the state of Virginia and their health and physical education programs. But they helped groom me. I went to the same institute, 2 or 3 years into my teaching, and it has greatly impacted my career. And, it's one of those conferences, institutes that is just so impactful. Can you explain to our listeners, the impact that the Health and Physical Activity Institute every summer, I don't know if you go every summer, but how that has influenced and impacted your career, and talk a little bit about what that Health and Physical Activity Institute is like if, others who are listening want to attend?
Sure. I mean, I've heard about it for years. This is actually the first year that I was able to go down. And I mean, it was the best. I mean, I've gone to Vapored a couple of times, but like, people have always talked about like how, like you said, impactful the JMU was, and just staying together, the couple nights overnight, being in those groups, doing the team building things, having the early morning things where you're just getting up and you have a chance to play, but you also have a chance to connect with some amazing teachers, to learn from some of the best, and just take things that you can apply immediately. And I mean, there were so many great sessions and great people that you meet there. And I mean, the views there never get old either. So, I mean, waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and just see the Blue Ridge Mountains, and, now you're outside playing spike ball at 6 o'clock in the morning, breaking a sweat. And then, you go get showered off, and then you got a whole day of, PD with some of the best people out there.
And Keith and Andrew, they also feed you at this amazing dining hall. So it's also known as like PE camp. And you have the opportunity to stay in the dorms, and then they put you in teams that, Patrick is referring to, where you build that team camaraderie and lifelong friendships and colleagues. But it's one of those conferences that when I went again this past summer, is the sessions go until 5 o'clock, 8 to 5. Like, one of the last sessions is 4:15 to like 5 o'clock. And you guys have been to state conferences before. You're always like, oh, I don't want the 4:15 session because no one will go. Everyone goes at the Health and Physical Activity Institute. Sessions are packed. they're all engaged. They're active participants. There's no like, oh, do I really have to participate? Do I really need to do this? Am I really going to these sessions? I can't wait until, I go back to my dorm at night. No, like I did a session from 4:15 to 5, and it was 5 minutes before 5 o'clock. I was like, okay, time to wrap it up. We won't get to this last activity. Everybody in the session was like, no, let's do the activity, please. Like it went to like 5:15 because they go right from the session right to the dining hall that's open till like, I don't know, 6:30. But then they have, also night events that it was one of those where I could not believe how all in the participants were.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Which is how it should be. If you're going to a conference, you should be all in. If you're making that effort, that's how it should be.
It's amazing.
So there's a lot of really good conferences out there too. I mean, I hear a lot about this one. So, I mean, it's good that they continue to do this, and it's not necessarily a part of their Virginia AFERD. It's a separate thing.
Yeah.
We had the PE Institute here. Artie did an amazing job of getting people up to Asheville, which is an awesome location because you are in the Blue Ridge Mountains up there. So it's, I mean, I'm glad that we have some of these off institute type things that are not in competition with the state conferences
and national,
Yeah.
And it's a much smaller, intimate type of place where you really get to talk to everyone.
Yeah. And
I don't know. I just absolutely loved that. I think sometimes it's in the past, it's even been sold out. Like they've had a wait list.
Yeah.
And you guys, it's relatively cheap.
Right.
Actually, it is cheap compared to like, some other conferences.
And I was real fortunate. Our county sponsored, paid for a handful of us to go down. And they gave preference to people who hadn't been before. So it was great that I was able to go. And part of it is, and I know that that's coming a little bit later, presenting at our district-wide in-service, taking back, some of our, big things that we took away from that conference. So I'll be doing that next week.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's get into that one then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you are, like you said, you're going to be conducting an in-service training on how to use and leverage Twitter for ongoing PD. But, I mean, how do we leverage this, or how do you, since you're the one that's going to be presenting this, how do you leverage this as the best ongoing PD? Because that's the one thing one of many things that we do great in this business is there's so many cool things shared on Twitter. And if you're new to this profession and you're not on Twitter, then you're kind of missing the boat on a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, like really how I got started on Twitter was through my master's program. I did it online through Fresno Pacific University. I could get it done. I think it was like 15 months I was done, and it was all online, which was good. And I remember I went back and looked. My very first tweet, I remember it was, "Don't get too excited. I've only got this because it's part of my, kinesiology 710 class." And that was back in 2011, 2010. And, it wasn't until a few years later that we had somebody presenting at our in-service, John Jones, who I know has presented all across the country as well. He did one that was kind of connecting technology and, getting connected through that way. And so that was like the first time I remember actively seeking out some different PE people to follow. And then, I got busy with coaching. I was at the high school and I wasn't really using it that much. And then when I got back down into the elementary school, is when my learning from Twitter, really just exploded. And at that point, it really, I wasn't even posting anything that I was doing. It was just following the right people, seeing some of the things they're posting, be like, oh, I love this game. Let's try it out. And, as far as what I mean by the best ongoing PD is I don't have to wait for JMU. I don't have to wait for paper. But at the same time, I can see what's going on at NC Shape. I can see what's going on at, the Shape National Conference or at, Iowa, whatever state conference that's going on. Like, everybody's posting about it. They're using that hashtag and it comes up, and I can see all the great things without even having to be there. So it's just about like finding the right people to follow, knowing how to find the things, and just taking what you want, because it can be overwhelming. We all know that. But just finding things, if you want to just do your search, there's that great cheat sheet that, somebody's posted. That's the Google slide presentation that whatever unit that you're working on, like you just click on that, boom, see what you want to do. Oh, hey, this works. Let me try it out. Let me see. All right, maybe I'm going to swap out, the yarn balls for Frisbees this time. You just take an idea, because I'm not really that creative to come up with new ideas, but I can take something and make it fit for me and what's going to work best for, our school and our kids.
There's so many games and activities that have already been invented that we're just, whether we tap on a new name to it or we reshare or we morph it into just how it works for our delivery. And that's what I love best about our subject, because I truly believe our profession, our subject, especially during COVID, really, really outdid other subjects.
Yeah.
We were sharing like crazy. And I think that there's a lot of us that are still very humble, being like, hey, I've been doing this for 25 plus years, but help, I don't know what to do during this remote learning environment.
Mm-hmm.
And being that true person to say, like, look, I really don't know all the answers. Please help, profession. You're getting help from people in Arizona, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and you're just sitting in your office at home in Charlotte, and I'm getting all these great ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we connected at first.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's how I'm going to run it, is pretty much how Jason Ronk was doing at JMU. And I'd been to that same session a couple years ago at Vapor, where it's like, basically taking them through it live, like asking the people in there, all right, what do you want to do? All right, first week back, that's coming up next week. Okay, go into the search bar, hashtag phys ed, first week, scroll down. All right, let's do this. Hey, we're going to go play this right now. And they can see that it's that easy.
That's actually a really good idea. Just going through the hashtag phys ed, seeing all the games, and then instantly looking at it like, okay, let's go play. Right now is something that we just learned.
Yeah.
Through that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So when are you doing that? You're doing that next week? Is that when you go back to school?
That Wednesday's our countywide in-service day.
Okay.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it is.
And so I think there were 6 of us that the county paid for to go down to, that had to go back and present. So when we had our meeting to see what we were all going to do, because we all had to come up with like, this is what I got out of it, this is what I want to present on. So we got partnered up, and Becky Howery, who's our elementary lead, was like, I think there's going to be a lot of people that want to go to that Twitter one. Let's do that 2 sessions. So there's 4 sessions or 4 blocks of sessions, and I'll actually be presenting at all 4. So I've got to present the other 2 sessions for some of the curriculum work that I did earlier in the summer on, that's related to the new Virginia standards that just are coming in.
Yeah, your physical education SOLs.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're called SOLs, Keith and Andrew.
Yes.
In the state of Virginia. And they're very, like, I'm very impressed by the health education and physical education SOLs. They're very specific, extensive. It could seem overwhelming, all the objectives, and for a teacher to be like, how am I going to cover all these? But at least they're not generic and so broad where it could morph into so many different ways that it could bring in a little teacher bias of like, this is what I think that kids need. It's very specific.
Right.
I think it's what I have them printed off here at my office, so I can, just reference them, because I think they're very well done. Plus, I love the Virginia leadership. I mean, I've got a lot of great coordinator friends there, and your state department Vanessa Wiggin is just a huge, huge advocate and supporter for what you guys do. One of the things that she says is you let teachers, let them give them the freedom to lead, and they will become champions. I remember her saying that, just give them the opportunity to lead. Don't suppress them. Give them the opportunity to lead, and they will become champions. And I just remember her saying that to me this summer, going, you know what? More teachers need to hear that, because so many teachers feel so devalued and are being told what to do all the time that they feel suppressed and they're not given leadership opportunities, when in fact, if you give them leadership opportunities, then they could surprise you and become the champion that you never realized that they had that potential.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like the secret sauce of Virginia, especially with that mindset that she's been your State Department lead for ever since I've been teaching, to groom that kind of type of teacher.
Yeah.
But so Vanessa's one of my people who's influenced my career. And I know Andrew's going to, ask you a question next that kind of relates to that.
But one thing I want to add on to what you said before too is, we're in a society of instant gratification, like Kim said, with our kids, but our teachers also would like to see things done instantly so they can pick up on ideas and make it work for them. So, when you're talking about, looking at these games on Twitter and then going and playing them right away, something that we started this summer is creating folders of video shorts and going to upload them to our Canvas courses from Twitter, from YouTube, whatever, just all the shorts. So they're only like 30 seconds to a minute long, based on different categories, depending on what you're teaching. So you can go into the folder and go, hey, I'm working on locomotor skills. What does someone have that's unique and different that I can teach, with locomotor skills? Or what's someone doing with ball handling skills? What's someone doing here? They can pull up the video shorts, see all the different options, and choose some of those activities just to stay fresh, but also to say, hey, that's really easy, quick, and my kids will love to do this type of activity. So it's just staying with the times. Right. So
absolutely,
you're setting up for success, because that's what we do. This is where we're going. So that leads to our last question. And I know you probably have a couple people to answer with this, but who has been your biggest influence so far in your career?
Well, let me just kind of follow up with what you were just mentioning as far as that, Twitter and having that database is one thing that I found that became really helpful. So that golf tournament that Great Falls puts on, both me and our other PE teacher ended up playing in it. And so, when we have two PE teachers, when one of us is out, like, sub plans really aren't that important because the other one just takes over, does all the teaching. But when both of us are out, it's like, it can be stressful. So we had, we got subs that we trusted in, but I just sent them a link to the Twitter, like the game that we were going to be playing, so that they could see what it looked like in action. Because I pulled it up on Twitter. I still wrote it out and gave them a description of everything. But, just being able to see that, all right, this is how it's set up. This is how it looks like when it's supposed to be playing. Like, so it's easy to do as part of your sub plan too.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Gosh, most influential. I don't know how to say this without making anybody else mad, because there's been so many.
You can have multiple.
That's okay. Those that are influential or feel like that they've contributed to the profession, they're humble enough that they don't need shout outs.
Yeah. Probably most influential would be Fran Hausman, who was my student teaching cooperating teacher at Wellsville Elementary. Because I did my high school placement first in Bradford, Pennsylvania, and I had fun, but I didn't really feel like I got better as a teacher, because it was like a 9-week-long unit. I had 10, 11, 12. My 10 and 11th grade kids, they were in either flag football or ultimate frisbee. And by the time I started teaching, it was literally, all right, these two teams you're playing on this, these two teams you're playing over there. And 5 minutes later, what's the score? Okay, now switch.
Gotcha.
And then my seniors, I was teaching golf, but it was only like 4 weeks. And then I had a different group to teach 4 weeks. I didn't feel like I was doing a whole lot of teaching. And then my second placement was at Wellsville. And I just remember that first day walking in, and she was already close to like retirement age. And she's got the most energy out of anybody in the school. Like, and it was just the best. And it definitely like sold me on I want to be, or I need to be an elementary school PE teacher. And just having to bring that energy each day, how to, interact with the kids. But there have been so many. The first woman that I taught with, also like her first year of teaching was 1970, which was a lot more before I was even born. She was a great mentor, Brenda Knitter. The two teachers that I got to, once I got back into elementary school, as I mentioned earlier, like that was, revamping my passion. Bill Brady, who's amazing, and Julie Braden were just phenomenal teachers. Julie really helped show me like how to like more listen to the kids. Obviously we're in a benefit of having multiple PE teachers. So like if a kid's having a rough time, one of us can go over and sit and talk with that kid, and the other ones can still make sure that the lesson is going on. And I know that becomes a little bit harder if you're the only one there. But this year I had a kid, he was a second grader, and there were a few other boys who he just wanted to be a part of those boys. But anytime we did things like groups of 4, there was already 4 of those boys. And one day he just went over and he was having a rough time. I went to check on him, and he was like, leave me alone. So I was like, okay. So I backed off. A couple minutes later, I just went over and I just sat down with him. Like I just sat down. I was like, are you okay? Just checking in on him. He's like, they all hate me. Nobody likes me. I've got no friends. And just for probably the next 10 minutes, like my heart just broke, just hearing all this things that this kid is feeling based off of like what his kids, like his classmates are doing. And, it happened again. And I was like, I got to do something, so it had happened again. We were doing a bowling event, and we needed groups of 4. And so he got over there, and those 4 boys who were always together, and he just wants to be them. He sat down, he went right over to the corner and sat down. And I was like, you know what? So I called one of the kids over. I said, will you go invite him to your group? And he came over with the biggest smile on his face. They had a blast. And it's like, what does it matter to me if there's 5 kids in this line, if everybody's participating and having a great time? Like, they don't care that they have to wait one extra turn.
That's right.
Like, so that part just kind of flipped a switch of like, you don't have to be like, so all right, groups of 4 means groups of 4. Like, let them, because it made such a difference to him. But then like it still just wasn't enough for me. So I talked to his teacher, and on Friday afternoons, if he had like a good week in the classroom and in everywhere else, he got to choose one of his classmates to come down to the gym and just play for about 20 minutes or so that he had that chance to like be in charge or whatever and not feel left out. So that happened for a couple of weeks, and it was the second to last week of school. And he had gone through already like the boys who are part of that group that he always wanted to be with. So I was thinking that was going to be, I was going down to the gym or his classroom ready to say, hey, just grab all those boys and we can come down and play. I got down to the classroom and he had already picked out a different girl. He was like, all right, we're ready. And so
very cool.
We're playing down there in the gym, and like I said, that's the second to last week of school. The last week, I didn't know what schedules were going to be like on that last day of school. But we're playing, he's playing, they're shooting around, he and this girl, and he comes up to me and he goes, Mr. Noel, he goes, next week, can I bring my entire class down? And I was just like, oh. I was like, I don't care what the schedule is. I will make time for you to bring down that entire class.
He was like paying it forward.
Yeah.
He understood the feeling that it made him, and he wanted to reward others with that satisfaction.
Absolutely.
And it's funny how you're mentioning about how, this example of this student, first, the importance of listening, and then two, bringing it to, having like, let's say non-food rewards, parties, or like, pizza parties, providing gifts or intrinsic type of go to the toy box to get, a certain gift because you were good for the week. But providing those opportunities to allow kids to come for additional physical activity time and time spent with, like, let's say eating lunch with the principal, having extra PE time with, that type of stuff. It is so much more rewarding than to have, hey, here's a piece of candy.
Yeah.
I love how that you were able to incorporate that. And I know that some of our listeners, it's hard to incorporate in a day where you go from class to class to class to class to class to class, and you barely could go to the bathroom and you don't have any planning time. But if you do, how beneficial that those opportunities outside of that PE instructional time, how rewarding it is and meaningful for those students. So, yeah. You guys ready for quick bites?
Let's do it.
Sure. No, it's not us.
It's Coach Noel ready for quick bites.
That's right. Go ahead, Phil. Get you a slice of pizza right now and fuel up for this one. You're going to need it.
There's only one way to find out.
Oh boy. I'm sorry, Andrew. What were you about to say?
The cowboy blanket. If you need to wrap yourself in that ahead of time just for comfort, you can do that too.
I mean, it is always so cold down here in our basement. I almost wore it around me for the whole thing.
Wow. All right. So, Coach, this is the part of the show where if you have been an active listener, you know that Kim has no idea what Andrew and I are going to ask you. And these are just trying to find questions for these. Sometimes it's like, ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one. We don't know how people are going to react. So shoot the best way you can, shoot from the hip,
right.
And have a little fun with this. And, sometimes there's a little follow-up, but try not to look at Kim during this because she'll make faces that you will be like, how do I answer this? So I'll start with an easy one, if you will. If you had the chance to invent a country, what would you name it?
I'm sorry, Patrick. Some of the
Noel land.
Noel land. I like it.
All right, what was your last impulse buy?
A rangefinder. I bought it down at JMU. I had it in my cart, Callaway rangefinder for golfing, and it was a couple days right before Prime Day, and I was like, let me just wait and see if it goes down any. And it was like Monday morning at JMU. I opened up my Amazon and it was $35 cheaper. I was like, yep, sold.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
Hasn't helped my golf game, but
well, it's one of those tools, if you're out there with it, makes you feel like, you've got it.
Yeah.
I like that question. Keith, what is your last impulse buy?
My last impulse buy.
Come on.
Oh.
Ding, ding, ding. Time's up. Andrew, what about you?
I bought a ruck pack.
Okay.
For what?
For rucking.
You're going rucking now?
I've started, about 3 weeks ago. I started it,
God bless you.
I had some runs in with it too. I just need to change it up once in a while. So.
What do you mean change it up? Like the weights inside?
Just the activities I'm doing, and it just adds that challenge, to your workouts by having that on when you're doing different activities. So, it's good. I like it.
Please send a picture or you know what? Why don't you wear your ruck during the professional development day in CMS coming up? Was it next week?
Next Thursday. Maybe I will. We'll see.
Okay, good.
All right. You gotta give the body different things to. Whoa, hey, it's a little change.
Yeah, that's right.
You know that.
Keep it guessing.
It is.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, Coach, if you were a brand, what would your motto be?
Don't worry about it.
That's good.
Okay.
Every Friday I bring in donuts to school, and everybody's like, well, here's the PE guy. And it's like, well, that's why I'm a PE guy, so that I can eat donuts all the time. I was tempted to check out my 6-pack of donuts shirt, but I went with this one instead.
I like to encourage somebody, but I think the donut one would have been also fitting for this podcast, knowing how lighthearted it is.
Yeah.
What never fails to make you laugh?
My daughter. She's just so funny, and she's at the point where she just narrates my life, and I don't know, the way she talks, the way she moves, the way she copies everything. It's just never fails to make me laugh.
I love 2-year-olds, and I think that's how old your daughter is, right? Too.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, because mine just keeps coming in and out of the room knowing I'm doing this podcast, and she's also laying right next to me, right here. She just jumped in the room, knowing that we're doing this. Doesn't care. Don't care about noise in the background. No, that don't matter.
That is so Nora.
Yep.
I can't believe Nora has not said anything during this whole podcast.
She's been wanting to. She's like, "Can I get on?" Like, I hear her like in front of me, and I'm like, "No, outs."
My daughter and dad jokes, but it's to the point now where my daughter will hit my watch and say joke because she wants to hear them too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But she doesn't understand them though.
She doesn't understand the joke, but she understands like the setup of it. So like once it says the punchline, she just starts laughing because I'm laughing.
That's right.
That's awesome. Those are those mirror neurons. That's amazing.
Jokes were I used to put them in my daughter's lunchbox, and I told her, if you're a good joke teller, people want to be around you. So learn how to tell jokes, and she would tell them to her teachers and everybody. So you just build that database over time. And then I said,
so what's the difference between a good joke and a bad joke? Timing.
I've heard that one before.
Oh, wait, that just went over my head. I had to process that. What's
the difference between a good joke and a bad joke? Timing.
That's perfect. I thought that was a glitch at first. I love it. You got me.
It's a good thing that you weren't a goalie in soccer, because everything gets by you.
That's right.
oh boy. All right, Keith.
All right, so
the longest quick bites, by the way, but keep going.
Not that we want to be other people all the time, but this is just a good fun one. If you can come back as a famous person, who would you be?
Michael Jordan.
Being the basketball person that he is, I could see that. Plus, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Regulate by Nate Dogg and Warren G.
Wow.
That's a good one. Keith likes tequila. So one word song.
Nobody wants to hear me sing, so all I have to do is say that word. You don't even sing the word.
Mm-hmm.
Really simple. All right, here's this question can go any way, rhetorical if you will. Why is a tennis ball fuzzy?
Why is a tennis ball fuzzy?
He's a trick shot person. He understands little physics and force.
Well, let him answer the question. It's his quick bites.
I know. I can't help it.
I've got nothing on that one.
This is called Stump the Guest.
Yep, nothing. Why is it? I got no clue.
You could have made something up.
To soak up all the dog slobber, I guess.
There you go. Yeah, think of it as more of a dog toy.
So, do you own a dog?
We rescued a dog. Yeah.
Awesome. So then that's going to lead to my next question. Knowing that
I was going to say, what kind of dog do you have?
He's a mutt. He's hound, pit, lab.
Okay. Oh, cool. Love it.
So if your pet could talk, what would they say about you?
A that I'm the best and I'm the funniest.
Stay home, please.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Mine goes through moods, so I know what he's thinking when he's mad, and I do know, when I'm in his good graces, what he's doing. So yeah, I can read his thoughts. I know exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah.
He's a very moody dog.
Mm-hmm. I know what he's thinking when I'm making my lunch each morning and making my sandwich, and he's just staring at me like, "Dad, can I get a piece of ham?"
Yes. And you give it to him probably,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Yeah. Same way.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it, boys?
I'm good.
That's all I got.
Do quick bites. I miss those.
Long bites.
Long bites. Coach Noel, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on to this Pizza and PE podcast. It was so easy to talk to you and just have pizza and have a good conversation surrounding PE. So
I mean, this was great. I mean, it's a humbling experience. I know you said it's a very lighthearted podcast, but I was telling my wife, I go, because I did a deep dish dive on a whole bunch of the episodes earlier, and it's like, you guys have had such amazing guests on here, like industry leaders and published authors, and I'm like, I'm just a regular teacher, but I know that I've had a story to tell. I know that I've had a career that people may be able to relate to, and you guys make it real easy to feel comfortable, but like it's humbling to be in the presence of all those other people now as a part of this podcast. So thank you guys for that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. And as a testament to all of those guests that we've had on, they feel the same way. Like I look at like someone like, I don't know, like we've had like, keynote speakers and TED Talk speakers on, and they're just like, I'm just Mike Kazawa. I'm just Sandy. I'm just, they feel the exact same way. In fact, they don't want to be put up on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And they're not seeking for those, accolades and that attention. They just want to just talk and help. So those are the kind of guests that we love to have on this show, like yourself. And wish you the best next week. If you need anything for that ongoing PD Twitter, just reach out to any one of us.
I'm going to tell this story about it.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we're here to help. You and, just anybody in this industry, we're just, we just, in my opinion, physical education, health education teachers are the MVP of every school when it's done right. So
outside of the custodial staff.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. We can't survive without those folks. So thank you. And
thank you guys.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Go play with your daughter if she's up from her nap. And we will talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, guys. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Wow. You guys, I never really thought about the learning beyond just doing the trick shot. Like my aha moment, and I know this is the part of the podcast that we, wrap it up and we talk about our aha moments, but it was when he said that he's teaching kids to first expect to fail before succeeding. And that's not in any negative way at all, right? It's not like a Debbie Downer. It's not like that. Just teaching about like understanding dissecting what went wrong to make it go right and to problem solve. I never thought of it that way. And that was my biggest aha moment. And we're talking about, just things about how are we embedding science and technology and engineering and math, STEM concepts in physical education. He's doing it.
Right.
That's exactly what he's doing.
That's right.
I hate having
distance,
all
force. Yep, all that.
It's just good PE and quality PE embeds all those other subjects. We need to have other district school leaders, principals to say, stop with all the nonsense of saying, you've got to add science, you've got to add math, you've got to have ELA, you've got to have that. We are doing it, and we've been doing it. It's just that we have to be mindful of what we're doing so we can articulate that back to say, here's how we're addressing literacy. Here's how we're addressing math. Here's how we're doing it in the trick shot, because I didn't even put the connection together in that trick shot type of learning experience that those kids go through.
Right.
So that's my aha. What about you, Kramer?
So, as our listeners don't know this, but you two guys know this, that when it comes to doing stuff like this, I've got a million sticky notes with all these ideas, and everything that I do is sticky notes on my desk, etc. And there's a sticky note next to this computer of a quote from a book I read, and it's from Dr. Bruce Perry, who's a child psychologist and trauma expert, where one of the things that he said in this book was relationships are the currency of change. And listening to him talk about, how these trick shots, and through these trick shots, all these kids want to hang out with them. They want to try and do trick shots. They want to impress their friends. They want to impress their teacher, and they want to belong to a group of, hey, we're going to just keep trying this, because if he can do it, we can do it. And we see that it takes him a while. It doesn't happen overnight. And all these relations are coming in without even really trying. I mean, it really is. I mean, you're just doing your everyday job and just adding something to it, essentially, just think when we were elementary PE teachers, right? It's just, you do some silly stuff just to get the kids' attention, and then they want to try and emulate it, and they want to try and be like you. I mean, how many times we took trick shots in basketball, and we make 1 out of 20 just over behind our head, but that one time you make it, they're like, oh yeah. I mean, the crowd goes wild, but they forget that you've failed 19 times before that.
Right.
And it's you're building relationships almost through through failure until that one success. You know what I mean? It's like, you look at baseball, right? You fail 7 times and you get 3 out of, if you're up 10 times, you get 3 hits, you're in the Hall of Fame. So it's a 300 average. So you fail more than you achieve in baseball, and you're in the Hall of Fame.
So I have a couple, and they kind of tie into what you guys said about, trick shots teach life lessons. So also with that, he brought in what he's really good at, and that's basketball, right? So he brought his personality and something he's really good at, and thought, hey, what is one way I can use this sport to really gain more interest from students? And it doesn't have to be necessarily just like basketball type games, but what can I do to be creative using basketball? And that's where the trick shots kind of came from, so it's taking, your personality, things you're good at, and what can you do to really help sell that to students to make it their own, and I think that's just a really good way for any of us that we have talents outside of sports. It could be music, it could be art, it could be, and we can add that into what we teach, and really present that to students in different creative ways, which our students need help with sometimes, is being creative. Let's show them how to be creative.
Right.
And the other thing is what Keith said, part of building that relationship, and when he was talking about that student at the end, is really the importance of active listening, really listening to our kids, really showing interest in the things that they enjoy, and making those connections so that they'll not only buy into what you're doing, but they'll trust the environment that you're going to set them up for success, and him thinking of ways to get through to those other students to include him. What an awesome way to then, now this student goes above and beyond to pay it forward, like you said, Kim, to include other students. So you're just setting good examples of what it should be in a classroom. And now these students are then taking that role and doing all these amazing things. So there's so many awesome lessons we learn every day in PE. There's lessons that we learn. And it's just one of those things that I think as a school, they need to pay attention more to these things to see how it's really done.
I love how he approached the student that was having a rough time regulating and his emotions being angry, and he just kind of sat out. Right. Instead of Patrick going, no, get up, go to this group, you need to participate. He understood that, like, wait a minute, something's going on. Let him just sit for a little bit, check in, and he literally just sat down and just listened. That's all it is. He didn't poke. He didn't keep saying this. And, I think sometimes teachers fear that if a kid sits out, that makes me look bad as a teacher. And I'm scared if my principal walks in, that what does that look like? And then I'm going to get reprimanded for not having all kids being active. That's where we have to coach up to say, look, there are some kids that who may be active that don't want to be inactive for a short period of time. And there's a reason why. get kids busy and then just talk. Like I used to in the beginning of every school year have just, especially in the beginning of the school year, but I would have like baseball cards. I would have all types of different like sport cards, and I just keep them in a box. When kids were a little scared in the beginning, especially my kindergarten, first grade, they felt skittish to start. I would just kind of recognize those cues and just say, hey, you know what? Why don't you just watch and look at these cards?
Right.
And they felt distracted looking at the cards, but also they wanted to see what was going on in their environment because they never been in this type of gymnasium or this type of environment before, that they want to see before they did.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's just one of those where you're not a bad teacher if a kid doesn't want to do something and be active all the time. There may be a reason for it.
Sure.
So I loved how he just, I saw him sit down against the wall with the student and just talk that out with him when he was telling that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just love that. So you guys, this was an amazing podcast. I love spending time and conversing with you guys about just PE and just catching up with us in our lifestyles. Because I know it's, I hate not seeing you, every day at work. I miss you guys terribly. I know, but we're going to have to commit to be sure that we are doing these podcasts routinely. I know summer was hectic, but we have to get episode 22 scheduled soon because this was episode 21 and I just want to keep it going and have these conversations. So miss you guys. And I look forward to doing another one with you guys and seeing you soon.
Wonderful.
Slice you later.
Oh.